This is Breaking Down the Bible, the Hebrew Scriptures. Do you believe in the book? Do you believe in the Scriptures? Well, good, because in this portion it's all about Thanksgiving. So, before we get started, I want to put this up here into Galatians 4:16. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth about Thanksgiving? Well, will I? What do you really know about Thanksgiving? Do you even know what happened? Or are you too busy getting your turkey and your candy yams and your cakes and your puddings and your pies together to go give thanks? But who or what are you giving thanks to? Do you even know the premise behind Thanksgiving and what it's for? Again, do I become your enemy because I bring forth the truth? So, happy Thanksgiving, not. Here, I found online this photo that I would bring forth to you in reference to Thanksgiving, how the native people of this land, who are Hebrews, some of them were Hebrews, were slaughtered on this very day that you call Thanksgiving. Now, here is Juan Gonzalez, who's doing his ritual to the premise of what happened to his ancestors on that day. So I found this, and I want to make sure that I used it and cited it correctly from the Boston Globe. But anyway, is this really Thanksgiving? Is this what they really did there? What do you think Thanksgiving is? Leave it in the comments and in the section below. And then tell me, what are your thoughts on Thanksgiving? Davarim 20:31-30. You will be pledged to be married to a woman, but another will take her and rape her. You will build a house, but you will not live in it. You will plant a vineyard, but you will not even begin to enjoy its fruit. Now, before I go to 31, does this not sound like what happened to the Indians when the Europeans, or what you might call pilgrims, came over here and took over and slaughtered their people, learned the agriculture, learned how to live like they did, took over their teepees or their booths, their homes, raped and pillaged the women? Is there any history background that you might have on Thanksgiving, how it actually came to evolve? And let's not start on anything with Christopher Columbus. He was a simple savage. He really didn't even come here, and it was a mistake if you look into the history. But he too had a lot of error. So, if I tell you this, would you go back and research it? Would you look into the scriptures and then collude with them with the research and see how much of it is really true? But some of you won't, some of you will. So I pulled some things together here to give it to you. But again, I, Officer Wolfline, am not here to just feed you in a certain manner, but to teach you in a certain manner. Let's go to 31. Your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes, but you will eat none of it. Your donkey will be forcibly taken from you and will not be returned. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and no one will rescue them. Remember the buffalo? Go back and research how many buffalo or ox were killed. Who was killing all of them? What were the Indians fighting for back then? Or why you might call them Indians, but they really were not Indians because they thought it was India in the research. So what was it? What group of people were there killing the buffalo with muskets? Do your research. Leave the comments below. Now, in this photo, you got a lot of turkeys looking at this person. But the only reason why he would hide something is because they might recognize it. And the same thing with this Babylonian area. If you put it before you and you were told what it was, or if you knew what it did, then you would scatter and move. But the deception of the European nature is quite obvious here. Very deceptive. Now, 1637 is when Thanksgiving began. It was proclaimed by that Governor Winthrop, in Massachusetts and Bay Colony, to celebrate the safe return of the men who had gone to fight against the Pequots in Connecticut. The fighting led to the enslavement and massacre of over 700 men, women, and children from the New England-based tribe, a bloody precursor to what would be centuries of strife for Native people in the U.S. So, put this in perspective. You bring forth a meeting or a gathering to eat, and you do all these treaties and you do all of these bargaining practices. One side is innocent enough, doesn't see it coming, but the other side is very deceptive, just like that axe you saw. So when you get done with your meeting, you're done eating, you're celebrating and give thanks, and then you slaughter the native Indians, the Aborigines of the land. You heard me right. So the Europeans killed those men and women and rejoiced in a word called Thanksgiving for conquering a less dominant people who were entrusting. You ever heard of the cowboy Indians? Why the Indians were fighting so much? Because the cowboys was taking over their land unjustly. They say one thing and do something totally different. So the words that are being spoken before you are not really what they seem. Just like in today's society. You have to learn the etymology behind the words. Another portion of this says something to the same effect in this particular slide. But what I wanted to point out to you is Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men and women and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual Green Corn Festival, which is their Thanksgiving celebration in the pre-dawn hours. The sleeping Indians were surrounded by English and Dutch mercenaries who ordered them to come outside. Those who came out were shot or clubbed to death, while the terrified women and children who huddled inside the longhouse were burned alive. The next day, the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony declared a day of Thanksgiving because 700, beautiful, right? 700 unarmed men and women and children had been murdered. I thought this would be picked a little bit better for you. What did the colonists do? They cheered in victory. That their allies of the village were attacked after other villages. And women and children over 14, you know what they were done? 2, they were sold. in slavery. And the rest were, they were killed off, they were murdered. And some of the boats were loaded. As much as 500 slaves regularly left the ports of New England. Bounties were paid for Indian scalps. That's when they started scalping, to encourage as many deaths as possible. So is that Happy Thanksgiving now? I pulled some of this information from one of the articles to give you a direct understanding of what this was. So at what point do you put down the turkey and the cranberry sauce and you say, wait a minute, I'm celebrating the massacre, the genocide of the original people of the land? This has nothing to do with your families or giving thanks for the day of gathering. Nothing. You got another one coming up, a celebration. You might call it Christmas. Some of you don't even look this stuff up. Christmas is Saturnalia. Look it up. Saturnalia. Matter of fact, if you go on my channel, I've done a whole process on that. So you can look at the Christmas, and then you can go look at how to be a good Christian. You know, Officer Wolfline is a Hebrew, so you know I'm not a Christian. But if you're outside the guidelines of what I'm telling you there, you're a very good Christian. So I tell you how to be a good Christian. There's instructions on how to be a good Christian in that video. Also in that video is highly enlightening and makes you want to do the actual research. Some of you get upset because you don't know this information. But what do I tell you to do? Go look it up. Look up the day of mourning, the National Day of Mourning for Thanksgiving. Take some time to get off your iPads and your videos and your phones and do some research, whether you're using your hand or thumb, to even get it on the internet. A lot of information is on the internet, but you got to filter it and filter it and filter it. There's some truth in some of the stuff. You have to look for it, but there's a lot of garbage out there too. Okay? So you had no clue that I was going to do this video, but yet you knew it was coming. Yes. So, National Day of Mourning. Now, in this one, this was a follow-up to the successful raids against the Pequot and what is now Stamford, Connecticut. The church has announced a second day of Thanksgiving to celebrate victory over the heathen savages. During the feasting, they hacked off heads of the natives, were kicked through the streets like soccer balls. Even the friendly Wampanoag, and if I'm pronouncing that wrong, forgive me, did not escape the madness. Their chief was beheaded and his head impaled on a pole in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it remained on display for almost 24 years. At what point does this not disgust you? This is your Thanksgiving. This is what you're really celebrating. Let me back this up. At what point do you smell deception right now? Do you smell any? Guys, this information is everywhere. You got to wake up. You got to understand what's before you. So during that period of time when the Cowboys and Indians were going on, this is where their Thanksgiving. This is why the Indians were attacking. Land stolen. Their meat supply was deplenishing. And at one point, they were celebrating being a cowboy versus Indians. You never knew why you were against the Indians. Even when I was growing up. But I wanted to make this video short and sweet to the point so I can get it up on YouTube. And this is the day of Thanksgiving, and it's all for you. So it's all 100% pagan, and it's definitely misleading. This is your true Thanksgiving. This is the meaning of Thanksgiving right here in front of you. Watch the video 10 or 15 times and actually go out there and look up the information. You can find an Indian, tell them, and ask them, what does it really mean? They're going to tell you it's false. Christopher Columbus was false, is a fake, and never came here to the Americas. But you got to understand that most of the time when they found something, they put their names on it. And that's also in the Hebrew scriptures. So their lands are going to be named after them. That's what they do all over the place. Look it up. So what I'll do is I'll give you a hint. It's in Psalms. And put this on the back portion of your brain for a second. If everybody likes to name things after themselves, this is also in the Hebrew scriptures, better known what you call as the Bible. Now, if this is being said in Psalms, all you have to do is look it up and then put it in there. And you're going to do a little bit of homework. So, if Christopher Columbus founded the New World, or what you might call New World, why is his name not on any of the land, but yet it's just a holiday? It's all false. Yeah, but if you go to Caesar Borgia, which you might call that the Jesus Christ, the fake Jesus, or Scipio Africanus, or General Africanus, which Africa was named after, then who was America named after? Some say Americus Vespucci, but that's who America was named after. Amerigo or Amerigus. In the research, those are the two names, Vespucci. So, where was Christopher Columbus? If this Amerigo or Americus Vespucci is how America got its name. Guys, deception. Simple deception. So, no thanks to Thanksgiving. No thank you. This holiday has a very dark side, like most of your holidays do. The native people of the history exploitation includes the enslaved of Africans who are not Africans, but they're Hebrews from the land of Israel or the nation of Israel, mocking the poor and getting you to buy things you don't need. So, do you think it's time to dump the celebrations that you keep the cash in your pockets at this point? I agree with this. I found this online. I said, wow, I was building something. I was like, well, look at this. It's right here. So you need to understand that the next day after Thanksgiving, or that weekend after Thanksgiving, they have something called Black Friday. Why don't you guys look up Black Friday? Because everybody else has nation, but African Americans, black people, are the only ones besides Caucasians from the Caucasus Mountains are called themselves white, and the blacks black, which makes no sense. How can you be a color and everybody else has a nationality? Well, I hope you've enjoyed the time here with me. I always enjoy giving you new information or old information to stimulate thought. But this is the Officer Wolf Line. You can visit us at theofficerwolfline.com. So like us on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe. Go to YouTube and hit that button. Facebook. Twitter. Shalom.